Spark of Rebellion ignites the era of Star Wars Unlimited. Welcome to the Star Wars Unlimited podcast, where we discuss how to outmaneuver your opponents. I'm Faith, and I'm here with J-Rod, Carbon, and his dudeness. It is finally here. This Friday is the official launch of Star Wars Unlimited. This week we'll be talking about our pre-release events that we all attended. Before we begin, hit that subscribe button on YouTube and follow on Spotify. Thank you for listening. Also, if you enjoy Outmaneuver, come out and show your support for us on the Unplayable channel's Showcase series, which was recently posted to YouTube. Now on to the pre-releases. Carbon, how was your event?
Well, I got to go to two different pre-release events, and I'll start with the first one. I was able to go with my dad actually, which was a ton of fun, and this is really special for me because this is my first time like playing a physical card game. So I got to actually open, my first ever like card game packs. So I was really excited, and there was about 20 to 24 people at my first one, and yeah, I went ahead and opened all my packs. I didn't get anything too crazy, no legendaries, and actually my rares were a little underwhelming. I got like two Bail Organas, a Bendu, You're My Only Hope. And so I got some very solid commons and uncommons in blue and green for hero. Especially I got some Battlefield Marines in particular. I had, I believe, three or four of those. And so I went ahead and put together a Luke green deck to try and most of the curve of the deck was pretty cheap, and so I was trying to get on the board quickly, put some cheap units with shields, and start pushing a lot of damage to the base quickly before the slower decks could drop their big bombs versus me. And I ended up going 2-1 in that event. I was able to beat an IG88 yellow player to start, and then I beat a Vader blue, and then lost in a very close best of three to a green Vader as my final match. So yeah, that first event, tons of fun. Had a great time. My dad actually went 3-0 with his a really strong Green Vader deck with lots of ramp, lots of big cards. He had two Emperor Palpatines in that deck, and was able to do really well in that event. So that was pretty awesome. And then the following day, I wasn't really expecting to go to another pre-release, but it ended up working out that I was able to go to a second one, and that one was also a ton of fun. So that was best of one rounds, but there was 4 rounds for this one, and I was able to go 3-1 in that one. This time I played Vader Green with some really strong rare cards, especially Seventh Sister was really strong. Bombing Run was pretty good, and I had a lot of really big bomb cards. I had is it the Reinforcement Walker? It's 8 cost green walker that's a 6/9. It lets you, when played on attack, draw a card, and then you can either discard it to gain 3 health, or you can just keep it in your hand. That card was really good in the late game to keep me alive against some of the faster decks. So yeah, I was able to take home some prize packs from each of those. So overall, yeah, great first experience. Absolutely love the game. Getting to meet people that are just as excited about the game as I am. And yeah, it was a ton of fun.
What about you, J-Rod? How was your pre-release?
Yeah, so I'm a much more veteran at pre-releases, so I kind of hopped in and built my deck real quick on Friday night, and helped out some other folks around needing any help. We had actually a pretty big mix. We had 21 people, and a big mixture of very new players to people who've been playing this game for a little while. We had some of the KTOD boys at my pre-release, TV Getz and Bobby Sapphire. I ended up playing a Jin Red, which I kind of regretted, even though I went 4-1, losing in the finals. I think had I been playing Sabine Yellow, I would have probably won in the finals, but my pool was pretty insane. We had 2 Green Squadron A-Wings, we had a Red 3, we had a Millennium Falcon, we had Fighters for Freedom, Dissembling Fang Fighters, Strafing Gun Ships, we had Chewbacca, the unit, Syndicate Lackeys, an Open Fire. Like, it was a really space aggressive deck that was really good. We also had 4 calls I believe in that definitely closed out some games. And I opened up Spark of Rebellion and I played it once. And it was against Bobby, and he just deployed Luke. I was basically out of resources. I had 2 left. And I just played Spark because like nothing else for me to do. And he ended up having Mace Windu in his hand, so I was able to take his Mace Windu, and I was able to take down the win for that round. And then I ended up losing to Sabine in the finals. But we had kind of agreed beforehand, because this pre-release was a little... if I was running it, I wouldn't have run it like this, but they decided to run it where first place got like 12 packs, and they charged an extra $5 to put extra prize pool, and they definitely were generous with the prizes. Don't get me wrong. I would have just appreciated a bit more if it was more spread out across everyone. Even as the person winning it, like it just makes it more competitive, and like in the middle of the games, I'm not willing to help people as much because there's more on the line. Where like in my other one that we did the next day, that I'll get into in a minute, it was I was able to help people more during the games to be helpful and help them learn a little bit more. But so me and the person that ended up winning the whole thing agreed before we played just to kind of split the packs. So like I got the first place packs, and they were giving away one of the game deck deck pods if you won first, and he wanted the deck pod. So the agreement was basically I would get first place packs, he'd get a deck pod, and then whatever packs we ended up with for the whoever ended up with the other spot. So we played it out for fun, and he ended up beating me in the finals. So they gave him the win, and then I ended up technically in third place, and then I got the first place prize packs, and he got third place prize packs with the deck pod, which monetarily is basically pretty even, and he just preferred the deck pod. So worked out for everyone. It was a great pre-release. Saw a bunch of friends that I hadn't seen since the Destiny days, so that was great. Hadn't seen Mike in like 3-4 years or so that was awesome. And then Saturday, I went to my second pre-release at the store that I help out at, and we decided to do best of threes. I should say Fridays was best of ones, and then Saturdays, excuse me, was best of threes. So we did best of threes, and then we did pack per win, but it was only $30 to get into it. So it was basically just like bonus packs, and that one I ended up going 3-0, only dropping one game to my buddy Paul, who's a good player. He played Destiny with me for a while, so it was good. I also, my buddy Dominic, who I got into the game pretty recently, he had an insane Boba Fett pool, to be honest. Like, he had Boba Fett unit, he had, I think, 2 or 3 of the 2-3 Imperial boys there that get bigger if you get 6 resources. He had 2 laser techs. He had a boss. He had ECL as well. Like, his deck was like pretty nutty, but I was able to squeak out a win with my deck for day 2 for Saturday, which was a Luke Green deck that really relied heavily on Restore to try to survive. Like, I had 2 Consortium Star Vipers. I had Devotion in the deck. I had 2 Restored Arcs, a couple Making Openings, Regional Sympathizer. What else had Restore? We had 2 Reinforced Walkers for the top end and a Vigilance also. So that I was playing for 6. So we just had a lot of ways to try to heal back damage. So like no one really got me below 10 HP except in the one game loss that I had, but I won the match overall. So it was super fun being able to play and help some of the newer folks. Because even on the Friday one that I said I didn't help people during the game, after the game I definitely was giving away tips and deck building advice and that kind of stuff to help them move forward in the event and learn a little bit. And one person was so grateful, they tried to give me a hyperspace Snow Trooper Lieutenant for free that I asked to trade for. And I said, no, I absolutely can't accept this for free. I would like to trade for it. So he said, well, can you give me some stuff for my green Jin deck that I have that he was playing at the pre-release and he wanted to continue to build on? So I ended up giving him some commons and uncommons, and then I let him take a pick from my hyperspace cards that I had opened up. And he ended up taking, what's the 2/2 blue force user there?
Guardian of the Wills?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Guardian of the Will. So he ended up taking the Guardian of the Wills, and he was ecstatic with that. And I thought that was a reasonably fair deal since we don't have prices for these cards. And he's going to give it to me for free anyways, but I was like, I didn't want to do that. That just seemed like something that I don't like doing in pre-releases. I don't typically love to trade in pre-releases unless the cards that I really want. And I know it won't be like super expensive. Like, I hate trading for like really expensive cards at pre-releases because sometimes they fall in price and you end up trading away too much, or sometimes like they go up in value and then like you kind of didn't give them enough. So it's like weird. Just like I just try to like stay away from that, especially with like newer players, because I don't want them to ever have a feeling of like feeling bad. So I tend to not trade unless it's someone that I know knows their stuff. Like if like Mike ended up giving me hyperspace outmaneuver, and I do owe him a hyperspace card for his Sabine deck that once I pull, I'll have to trade back to him. But he hooked me up with that since obviously it's our namesake, so that was pretty rad. Overall weekend was 10 out of 10, and I still have one more event this upcoming Monday as well, so excited for that.
If you guys want to see more outmaneuver and content with Bobby Sapphire, you can again check out that unplayable video as we play the KTODs in the first round of the showcase series. As for myself, I gotta say I really enjoyed my pre-release. I met a lot of great people at all the events that I went to, and that was a great time. I was lucky enough to go to 3 events, and I ended up doing really well. I ended up going 8-0 in my matches. All of them are best of 3, and out of the whole weekend, I was only dropped 1 game, so that was really good. In the first pre-release that I did, I looked at my cards and nothing there was no, like, really bombs, I would say. Nothing no legendaries, at least. And I did, though was lucky enough to get a K2SO and a Ewing reinforcement. And so that's kinda where I looked at first, and I was like, "Okay, there's some stuff here." Then I had some A-Wings, some Fleet Lieutenants, and some Echo-based Defenders. So that was kind of a rebel package. I had Leia in my pool as well. I threw in some removal, and I made myself a Leia. If you watched our video last week, we talked about what kind of decks to build, and we talked about either running Vader with some ramp or running aggro. And it looked like here running aggro was successful. I was able to get in there and get kills before people were expecting it. I was able to run some spicy cards with the wing reinforcements. So I had in my deck a Kanan and an Emperor's Royal Guard. Since Ewing lets you play the cards for free and it just counts their cost, it was able to get around the aspect penalty to make some fun and interesting plays. In my second pre-release, I opened 3 A-Wings this time, and I opened a Battlefield Marine and 2 Metal Ceremonies. And so that pretty much put me in the aggro kind of strategy. I opened my only legendary of my 3 events. I did open some more in prize packs, but in my pre-release kit, the only legendary I got was a Mace Windu, which fit into Sabine, which was nice. And in that one, that event, there was less people. The first event, I had about 48 people at the Source in Roseville. Thank you to the Source for a great event. And in the second event, there was only 3 people. So it was funny going from 48 to going to 3. In the second event, though, is when I lost my 1 game. There was some very close plays, very good deck that I versed against a Boba Green, I think it was, who had a Vader in his deck. And that one came down to 2 reinforcement walkers both attacking each other's base. So it was a really interesting game. But he ended up getting 1 game, and I ended up taking the match. But with all the aggro I was able to get in that, it was nice. Today, as we're recording on Sunday, I was able to play in my final pre-release, and this time I wanted to really try using Luke or Vader. And so I when I looked at my pool, my blue and my hero was a little bit iffy, and so I went with a red-green build into Vader. As we talked about in our video, Vader was what we kind of thought was the best leader to build if you can. It just needed the ramp. And I was lucky enough to get 2 super laser techs. I also got a fallen lightsaber and a fifth brother. These 3 kind of units were my main core, I would say. There was a game where I got a super laser tech, pinged it off, and then I got another super laser tech, was able to ping it off, brought Vader out, and gave Vader a fallen lightsaber, all on turn 4. So my opponent was playing a Jin, and before their Jin came out, my Vader was already out with a lightsaber, and that was pretty gross. So there was a few games when I was able to do that. And the interesting thing about this deck was the highest cost unit in the deck was 5 cost unit. And so even though it was Vader, it was trying to get later game, I was really just trying to play more aggressive for a lot of it and just trying to go early and use Vader as a top end. Another big card in that match was a bombing run. My opponent had 3/3/3 space units on the board, and 1 bombing run was able to take them all out. I had no space unit, so that was really helpful. Really good card, really great time. And again, I just want to really thank all my opponents who I played. You guys were all really good, and I really appreciated playing the game. It was a lot of fun. What about his Dudeness? How was your pre-release?
I only went to 1 pre-release on Saturday. I ended up playing a green boba list. That was more or less the only thing I could have built from my pool anyways. There wasn't a lot of other good options. Did end up going 3-0 with it though. But I definitely faced some new players in a couple of games. First round was against an actual child. So I mean, taking candy from kids, I guess, but the deck itself was not bad. It did have 1 super laser technician. Stuff like Viper Probe Droid or Crafty Smuggler were good turn 1 plays. If I wasn't playing a Technician, I could play a Consortium Star Viper, which is kind of cool because it activated both Escort Skiff and Frontier ATRT. The theme of my deck was basically ambush with cards. Agent Callus was the one rare I had in the deck, but I had a Bosk, the Frontier ATRT, the Syndicate Lackeys, just playing any of the 5-cost ambush boys on turn 5, killing a dude, raiding a resource with Boba, deploying Boba, killing something else, probably raiding 2 more resources, and then playing Star Viper or 7th Fleet Defender or something. That was just good enough. I would say the MVP though was Surprise Strike, because that card one-shot leaders on multiple occasions. I one-shot a Chewbacca. That was pretty cool. I one-shot Luke a couple times. Like, pretty cool stuff. So my pre-release was pretty fun. It's pretty cool. But unfortunately, I brought my brother with me. This was his first time really playing the game. And during the deck building stage, when I was done with building my deck, which didn't take very long because it was pretty straightforward, I go over to try and help him build his deck, show him what cards are maybe better than others, what his pool is kind of leaning him towards. And as I'm doing that and helping him out, this first round opponent who was sitting across from him gets absolutely upset that I'm helping my brother like build his deck. And I basically just tell him to go blank himself without like actually saying it. And he rage quit the tournament right then and there, which is fine, whatever, because the guy was a douchebag. But I felt the most bad for my brother because he had to sit there in the first round and not play the game for the pre-release that he went to go play the game at. And it was best of 3 round, right? So like good 50 minutes, he's just sitting there doing literally nothing. And then his second round opponent was Justin, aka Inception from the Garbage Rollers. He recorded that match. And so whenever they post that, like you'll see my brother get absolutely obliterated by Justin in this match. So he loses 0-2 very quickly.
Well, 1-1, right? Because he. Oh, you meant 0-2 because best of 3. I'm sorry.
Yeah, he went
Yeah.
0-2 because the best of 3.
Yeah, yeah.
And then in the next match also went 0-2 in the best of 3. And so he got denied the proper pre-release experience because his opponent was a try-hard in the first round and couldn't handle someone having an unfair advantage. But
To be clear, the rules for the pre-release are everyone can help everyone. And if the gentleman across from your brother had been like, "Hey man, I see you helping him. Like, could you give me a hand too? Would you mind?" I bet you probably would have been like, "Yeah, no problem. Just give me a minute."
100%. Like if anybody in the pre-release asked for that, I'd have been like, yeah, dude, like these are the better cards. You probably want to stay away from those cards, et cetera, et cetera.
Here
So
at Outmaneuver, we're generally more competitively minded, and yet all of us had really looked at this event, listened to what FFG said about the pre-release, their plans, their vision, and I think we were all really drawn to the fact that, yeah, we want to have a welcoming space, a welcoming community for people to come and enjoy themselves. There's going to be time for competition, and there's going to be times when that more sweaty mindset is going to be in place, but the pre-release just isn't the proper place for that. I think we
no,
can all
not
agree.
at all. Not even close.
And that,
Hey,
well,
And
it's
it kind of just
described. Oh, is they described it themselves as like, this is a super casual event, right? This is how new players are getting into the game, right? It's not even really designed. It's not designed to be competitive at all. Really, it's supposed to be just a fun time, which is what I, for the most part, treated it as, right? You know, and yeah, so hopefully going forward, we'll have better experiences for your brother at least. So
no, fortunately it didn't sour him on the whole thing. Like he's gonna
yeah,
keep
that's good.
playing and we played a match earlier again with our pre-release decks just to get a match in. He actually beat me
Oh, nice.
in our
nice.
one match that we played, and I didn't lose a single game all day. So his
Yeah,
deck like wasn't really that bad. Like his deck was a semi-solid yellow red kind of aggro list with Sabine, but he didn't really know what to do. And we were playing our games earlier talking about it. He was just pinging Sabine's ability just like, all the time, right? And I was like, no, there's sometimes you want to claim the initiative to go first. Because in one of his matches, he's playing against Jin, and so Jin's able to go first and use her ability to get the value trade. And I'm like, oh yeah, you gotta just claim and get the trade in first before he gets the value. But it's all learning, right? You get there with experience.
I mean, I saw a lot of it too, where like the claiming was really big for new players, deploying their leaders sometimes were really big, and a couple of new players that ended up getting Energy Conversion Lab, thinking that it was playing it for free.
Yeah.
So like, I think that's just some text issue on the cards for them FFG to consider for the future is like make sure to say like paying the cost. Like when it says play a card and paying its cost is like an important aspect of templating for some of their cards for newer players that I hope they kind of look at for their future, because we had someone on one of our videos comment that, they're like, oh yeah, I got to play Gideon Hask on turn 1 and ambush in to kill their guy, and he's a 6/7. I just won the game. I'm like, yeah, it sounds about right. Like it's
Yeah,
very
that's pretty good. You're
and
not
like,
wrong.
clearly it was 2 new players that didn't know the rules, and they both read the card and said, yeah, it seems really good.
It's good.
So like I corrected him on that, so now he knows moving forward. But like, because when you're judging, as I also looked over an event myself, even when you're walking around, like you're not going to catch every little thing people doing wrong, and like when it's 2 new players, they don't even know what's not correct. Call a judge for, you know what I mean?
Right, yeah.
And like no one really wants to call a judge in a pre-release anyways, so it's just tough to get people in. But I mean, I think overall, everyone that was new at all of my events were happy and excited and left. Even the one that was a little top heavy for prizing, everyone there seemed to at least enjoy themselves and have fun. And I know I
Right.
faced 2 of the folks that didn't get prizes, and they were like my first 2-round opponent. Actually, it was my first 2-round opponent were basically newer players on Friday. One who hadn't played a game before, and then one who played at PAX Unplugged with the demo stuff. And he had a buy round 1, so he ended up facing me, unfortunately, kind of like your brother. But after I beat him, I looked through his stuff and helped him make his deck a little bit better when we talked about it. He actually had a pretty good deck because he had Jin plus ECL, and I let him know that he can't
Fortunately,
ECL with
that's
Jin, and it's a non-bow, but
the
it's
essence of a non-bow, right? Unless Jin's deployed, then in which case it's a great combo.
yeah. So, we kind of talked about that. I gave him some tips with that to how to play. I don't know how he finished, but clearly, even with the free win, he didn't do super hot. But we had my Friday pre-release had a lot of good players who played Destiny and who had been playing this game for a while. Like I would say that pre-release was like above average players than you would see at like your average pre-release by a good portion. So,
Mhm.
and no
Yeah,
one
in
was
fact
taking it overly seriously, but it was just there's better play. They've been playing for a bit, so they know the claiming and that kind of stuff.
yeah, like, that's the big thing my brother even mentioned. I was like, "Man, I kinda just wish they were lands." So because you know what to put down as a resource, right? The decision making of, like, what do I actually need to
Mhm.
put down as a resource is not an obvious one for newer players too, right?
Yeah,
So,
that's all about knowing what your opponent could have and
yeah,
trying to think about that.
it's incredibly nuanced and a big part of the strategy, but if you don't really know any of it, like, it's just like, "Oh, what do I put down?" Right?
Yeah, I
One
actually
of the
think that.
guys next to me was completely brand new, never even played CCG before at all,
Oh, wow,
and
yeah,
but he ended up liking it. He was funny. I
nice.
guess he went 1 and 2 on the day,
That's
beating up
awesome.
on one of the other kids.
Huh. Like a
Yeah.
child kid or another person there?
Another child.
Oh, okay.
Uh,
Well, it does sound like we all had a good time, and clearly we all did well. So don't let anyone think of our talk here as saying we don't like competitive play. We all like competitive play, but we want
there's
competitive
a time
events to
and
be
place.
competitive. We want competitive events to be competitive, and we want more
Casual.
open events to be more welcoming.
Yeah, exactly. But
So
I will say, circling back to my pre-release just for a bit, I did actually open the only card that I wanted to open, Hyperspace Aggression. I didn't use it in my deck, but that was definitely the most pogged moment of the entire pre-release for myself.
this is a great transition because I was going to ask us all what is our favorite cards that we open. So thank you, Dunas, for
Yeah,
sharing.
Hyperspace Aggression, hands down, without question. And now the guy I just mentioned, he was his first CCG. He opened up foil aggression. And in that same pack that I opened the hyperspace aggression, I opened up a foil vigilance. So it was a 2 legendary pack. That's pretty pogged. But I was trying to trade my foil vigilance for his foil aggression, but he wasn't really going for it. New player kind of thing, right? He was like, not really. But I was like so close to having 2 of the 3 aggressions that I desperately want.
So my favorite pull was actually in one of my prize packs, one of the prize packs for the second pre-release event I did. I managed to pull a hyperfoil red 3, which it honestly it is a beautiful card. Like, it looks really good. And I did a couple legendaries. I was able to get a cunning, just a normal cunning, and a normal devastator, which were pretty cool. But that red 3, as like visually, is my favorite card that I've opened so far. So yeah, I was super happy to get that one.
What was your dad's favorite card?
My dad's favorite. Oh, so my dad got a he got a hyperfoil Palpatine, which is really sick.
Yes, sir.
And he also got a Darth Vader in his
Oh.
prize packs from going 3-0 in that first
I
thing,
wonder
which
if anybody
which
here
was awesome.
is jealous of that.
Yeah, I wonder if anybody maybe wanted a Darth Vader.
No,
Anybody?
Nope, definitely
no,
not.
no, definitely don't
Definitely
want a Darth Vader. That's for sure.
Well, I did want a Darth Vader, but a few hours ago I opened my first one in my prize packs as well, so I was excited about that.
We're flexing.
But I did in both my events, I actually was able to, even though I was running red, green, Leia, and Sabine, I put in both of my pre-release decks a Jedi lightsaber, which I opened. In the first event, though, I did open a hyperfoil or Hoyle
Foil.
Jedi lightsaber, and
Oh.
so that was a really nice pull. In some prize packs, I did get a hyperfoil black 1 and a foil home 1. So I'm just telling you all the great cards that I opened, so I'm really happy about this.
So my best pull on the weekend was in the last pack of my first pre-release kit. The very last card was a foil Millennium Falcon. And I'll be honest with you, I played Magic for years, went to absolutely metric ton of pre-releases, and I, if was lucky enough to pull a legendary, would only ever pull the legendary that everyone knew was like the dollar legendary in the
Yeah, the
set.
worst.
Like, that was like the best thing. So for me to actually go into this game and pull a foil legendary that is a very playable, very like worth, like a very valuable card, to me was like just made this even more special for me. Because I have a terrible pack. Like, I typically don't buy packs often. I am for this first set, but like I typically don't. I usually have credit from winning events that I usually try to fund my gameplay through. And like, so pulling like a Falcon, and I also pulled an Avenger in that first pre-release from my packs was awesome. I won 12 packs. They weren't amazing, but I did pull a Luke, which is amazing, to be clear. Other than the Luke, the pulls weren't that amazing. The second pre-release, I pulled a Vigilance, and then I ended up getting 3 packs. I don't think I pulled anything major out of the 3 packs, but then I got one more pre-release kit after that because my store had a bunch. So they sold some extra ones, and I got a foil Devastator and a Boba Fett unit, and that was like
Pretty
pretty
pog.
crispy. Yeah, so I opened up about a box and a half weekend, and then the best favorite card that I got all weekend actually was I got a hyperspace outmaneuver from like I said, from Bobby Sapphire. So that was very kind of him. So if you guys are going to PAX East at all, I'll be there. If you guys have hyperspace outmaneuvers, let me know. I would love to acquire more of those.
And shout out to the KTOE boys once again for the things that they do for us. Now, let's move our thoughts on from what we pulled to our kind of thoughts at large, taking a step back on playing sealed in real life.
Yeah, I want to talk a little bit about just specific how Sealed played a little differently due to the inclusion of Luke and Vader. And just based on my experience and hearing what you guys played and played against, and just seeing both what I played and what my opponents were playing, and what decks were doing good at the events. I'm very glad that Vader and Luke are only going to be in Sealed for our draft, for that matter, in this event, because they definitely both performed very well, especially Vader in particular. Vader was just everywhere at the pre-release and was kind of just crushing most other decks that came up against, unless they, just happen to have, a lot of really good cards, right? Or the Vader player didn't have, good enough ramp, good enough support, etc. But just the existence of ramp cards in the common slot, especially in green, really pushed Vader to be a very strong leader. So, and I like that they have this one-time thing for players to kind of experience this power level, and they also have the opportunity to make like leaders like Luke and Vader that are, you know, they're not designed to be played in
Yeah.
sealed necessarily,
Mhm.
but they can be here one time for a fun, like,
Just
power
fun.
level burst, right? And just give people an extra, 2 leaders to deck build with, which is helpful for new players making decisions, right? To just have two, like 8 leaders total for your 6 packs, right? To give you more options. And then from now on, then they'll be, and because they're really balanced for like premier play, like constructed play, I think.
Yeah.
Right? They're perfectly balanced in that. So it's like, so I'm very happy that they did it this way. And now I'm very terrified of Vader now in any form of sealed play. So yeah, it's very scary for sure.
It's interesting because you can tell that these guys didn't fit into a limited environment because they were too good to be common. And this sounds weird, but too good to be rare. Because you don't want your rare leaders to like give someone an unfair advantage because they got a rare leader and
Yeah.
now they're able to dominate the rest of it because their rare leader is actually really good.
Yeah.
I don't want bombs in the leader slot for higher rarity that warps limited and then choosing to make them starter set only is at least a signal to me that they understand
Yeah.
that same
Well,
thing.
and it was equal, right? Because they gave both of those leaders to everybody, so everybody had access to them, which I love that aspect of it too. Is
Right.
so sorry, go ahead.
You're, you're,
So
you're
there's
not
no
you're not gatekeeping power behind chance. You're giving everyone access to power, and they don't have to play it, but they have access to it.
exactly.
Yeah.
Like I hope we never see legendary leaders for those same reasons of I mean, they had to be good, right? And I hope they're not good unlimited, but we'll see.
So that's a good point there, you guys, on these starters. With that experience, because now going forward, sealed events are going to be different than this one-time pre-release experience. Is this something we want to see in future sets? We did get the pictures of the starter, presumably the
Damien and
starter
Mando.
leaders, yes, for set 2. So do we want to see that for set 2?
I don't mind it. I think it's fine if they want to give the starter set heroes away at the pre-release each time as alternate arts, right? Because they won't ever appear in the booster packs. I think that's fine with me. It seems
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah,
Well,
I
and
love that.
yeah, and I think that's great, and I think it, like I said, it gives them opportunity to create 2 additional leaders for constructed play, right? That aren't necessarily designed for sealed, but they're, since they're only going to be in sealed or your pre-release like one time, it's perfectly fine for them to do that, right?
Mhm.
So it gives them a little bit more design space with some of these leaders that don't, that because all the other 16 leaders then now need to be balanced for both, constructed and draft play, right? Potentially. So it gives them a little bit more freedom with those really popular characters, right? That they're using for the starters kits. And I think that's, yeah, I think that's a great thing for the game.
What else? What do we think? What else do we think was? Do we like anything we didn't like? Did we have fun?
I definitely had fun,
Yeah.
It was very fun.
Yeah. It
but
was, yeah.
I gotta
it was
say,
a little ruined by that one guy, though. Unfortunately,
yeah, you had that one thing, but like it sucks. But I'm sure, like generally overall, you still enjoyed playing in person for the first time. Like there's a lot of good firsts. I know that guy kind of put a big damper on it, but I think if it didn't happen to your brother, you probably would have had more fun. Like if it was like he did some random guy, you probably would have been like, okay, whatever, right? But I think because it was your brother is why maybe it
well, yeah, for sure, right?
affected you more. But I gotta say, for me, this is more card evaluation wise, but like the card that I put in both my decks that really overperformed from like I was like, oh, I'll just toss it in as like my like 29th, 30th card and it'll be fine. Maybe I can use it. Was the ATRT there, the neutral
Yes,
card?
yes,
That card, and I will admit my pools both had a lot of ships, which makes the vehicle thing a lot easier.
yep.
But what it allows you to do is it allows you to go to space and then use that to like clear some of the ground so that way you can better race or control the board better. And that card, man, that's a card that's going to rise up my ranks
For
uh
limited,
for
for draft.
limited a lot. especially
the
if you
deck art's
have the
pretty
vehicles
solid
for it.
because in my experience, like I said, the Consortium Star Viper, I had one Frontier RT and one Escort Skiff, and Consortium Star Viper activates both of those cards,
Mhm.
and it was kind of cool knowing I could just ambush on that 4 resource turn and start fighting for the board over there.
Like, I almost wonder if it sneaks into some constructed list, depending on, how things, because like it technically kills the 4/3 Sentinel Boy
And
cleanly.
lives, right?
Yeah,
Echo-based defender.
yeah,
Yeah, the
Echo
Echo
Base.
Base
Yeah.
Defender, it kills Battlefield Marines, kills Sabines, it kills some other stuff I can't think of.
It's still pretty good though against the aggro matchup in general.
Hmm.
Yeah, because ambush is helping you get off that damage quickly. And then if it can 2-for-1, killing another unit later, like that's all super gravy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's by far the best of the aspect list cards. I think out of the 6 of those we got this set.
I would definitely
Is
agree with that.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's the best performing, by far. It's yeah, very solid card. I played
That
with
being
it in
said,
my second release, and yeah, it put in some work.
the Underworld Thug is fine. I had one copy of that in my list.
Yep, that was
If
a
you need a
good
2-drop, 2/3 boy, just put him
Mhm.
in. Don't think about it and just slot the boy in.
Yeah.
I never
Fine,
needed to
good.
use it, but I would have if I needed to. I love the Corellian fighter as well.
Mhm.
I also sideboarded in two. I was playing in the blue green Luke deck that I had. I sideboarded in two, the ones that defeat and upgrade. Forget the name of the
Confiscate.
card. Confiscate. And because
What?
yeah, so I don't have any upgrade removal, and my opponent
Say
had
what?
the one game I lost with that Luke deck because we're playing best of threes. The only game that I dropped was when my opponent went Kanan into Jedi's lightsaber, and I just lost on the spot because I couldn't beat that. I couldn't ever deploy Luke, and he was playing Sabine, so I just got outraced. So I sideboarded in two confiscates and was like, "Oh, let's see you do that again, friend, because I'm gonna confiscate that." And then my last round, they played traitorous on my unit, and I
Ooh.
traitorous that unit right back to me. And then a couple of rounds after that, they traitors another one of my units. So okay, you got two traitors. These confiscates are coming in. We're not playing that game anymore. So I definitely think playing like even like a one of confiscate in your list for limited overall is fine. Because if you don't need it, you just resource
You
it.
just
And when you
resource
do
it,
need
yeah.
it, it's like super impactful, right? So
One thing I think is interesting about pre-releases in general, normally they're sealed because that way you get the most, especially for a launch of a game, because no one has any cards, but especially for the launch of a set, because sealed you get more packs, so you just lets you get more cards.
And
I generally in limited, I'll be shifting away from sealed and doing more drafting as my limited format, which I do enjoy. But sealed is an interesting format and something that's great for a pre-release event.
could you imagine like trying to draft at a pre-release and
no
everybody's
shot.
spending
Not a
5
shot.
minutes opening a pack, reading all the cards, and trying to figure out what? It's like, no, man, that's part of the reason why it's sealed too, because
Hmm.
you just open and go. There's no waiting on this slow guy because he doesn't know what any of the cards do.
Yeah, that would probably take like 5 hours just to do the draft, not even count
Yeah,
playing.
that sounds awful. But yeah, draft is definitely the more skill intensive limited experience for sure.
Just quickly circling back to Dunas, your brother's experience. Yeah, that's one of the reasons that we do help each other in a sealed event on a pre-release weekend because people are new opening cards. You can say, "Hey, this card's good. That card's bad." Like you're just trying to help people out. Makes the
Exactly.
experience go by faster, and still you don't have 5 hours of deck building.
Unless you're a guy who thinks your opponent is getting an unfair advantage at a casual pre-release and you rage quit.
Now that we looked at kind of sealed as a whole, let's zoom out a little bit farther. One more step. Now that we get to actually play the cards, we got to open pass. What are our thoughts on SWU as a whole?
I mean, the game is just absolutely phenomenal, right? I mean, we wouldn't be here each week talking about it, if it wasn't. But it just getting this first like actual play experience with the cards and just seeing like how good the systems they have in place are, and like just the aspect system, the packs being designed for sealed and limited play, just right out the gate. It just has only reinforced to me that this is an absolutely incredible game, and I cannot wait to see where it goes.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
so nice. See, they did this weird strategy of printing enough cards for everybody. It's a bold strategy, right? Like, let's see if it works out for him, Cotton. The exact opposite of what Lorcana did. And so right off the bat, it just makes it infinitely better. But maybe I'm Maybe I'm crazy over here.
Yeah, I mean, I think allowing more people to have cards, and even if the first set is overprinted a bit, right? I think it's probably better for the longevity of the game because I know for myself and my girlfriend, we attempted to get into Lorcana. We bought some starter decks and we're trying to get a box just to kind of like build some decks and play at home. And we couldn't even get one for like MSRP for like 3 months. And then we were just like out of it because then set two was coming out soon. And we were just like, eh. We ended up getting some boxes, but like at that point, that was kind of it. And we kind of moved on. And we don't really play Lorcana anymore. Nothing against the game. It's fine. But it
It's
just,
not fine.
it just, it's whatever. It just, not being able to get product when we were hyped for it really kills our desire to be more involved in it. You know, I mean, I knew I was still playing this game, so for me, I was kind of like in it because she wanted to try it out.
Right.
But like, yeah, I mean, this game I'm in regardless, so it doesn't really matter. But I mean, I think people being able to have product, and there will likely be product on store shelves. So if you teach someone, they can just go buy stuff to get into the game right away is like a really big deal. And I hope many stores, if not all stores, continue limited for the first couple of weeks at minimum of their weeklies, whether it's draft or a sealed league, which is very popular, which would just be like you buy 6 packs, you open it, you build a deck like a sealed deck, and then every week you add like a pack or two to it that you pay for to add to your deck to make it better. And you play like over like a course of a month to help people get cards so no one feels obligated to go out and go spend a ton of money to getting all the cards for their constructed deck to play. I think keeping it limited for the first, month of the set being out is a great way to invite new players into your store and to get them involved in the game.
As important as it is for FFG to print enough products that we can actually buy the products, we can play the product, we need a place to play with our product that we get. That's why supporting your LGS, as we talked about, is going to be so important moving forward. You're going to see prices fluctuate over these next few weeks, months, and ultimately the future of Star Wars Unlimited is ultimately in the hands of all of us, is whether we show up to events, whether we play, get our friends involved, support our LGSs so that there is an environment to play the game. That's what's going to make the difference. I know I really love the fact that it's designed with limited in mind. I love the deck building. I love the aspect system. It's really great. So I look forward to what this game has in store myself, and I would be a little sad if it didn't do as well as I hope it could do.
Game's gonna crush it, no doubt.
Well, that wraps it up for us today. Let us know in the comments how you did in your pre-release. Tap that like button if you like Star Wars Unlimited. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time on Outmaneuver.